everyone! Welcome to the 4th grade math channel of Sun Devil Learning Labs. My name is Miss Houston, and today we're going to be learning about rounding multi-digit numbers to any place value. So we're not going to be focusing on just thousands, hundreds, ones, or any certain place. We're actually going to practice all of them today. So let's go on, and we're going to look at our objective for today. You guys can go ahead and say this with me. I can round multi-digit numbers to any place value using a vertical number line. And the only materials that we're going to need is paper, a pencil, and an eraser. And that vertical number line, we're going to go ahead and we're going to review that real quick before we get into our lesson for today. So, vertical number line. What we're going to do is, on the right here, you guys can see this arrow, right? The top of the arrow represents where we're going to put our high-end number. And the bottom of the arrow represents where our low-end number is going to be. And right here in this middle portion is where our midpoint will be. Now, midpoint is a new vocab word for this week. Midpoint means the middle point or the halfway point between two numbers. So this midpoint is exactly halfway between the high number and the low number. So let's do an example real quick. For example, if this bottom number is 0 and this top number is 10, our midpoint would be 5 because 5 is exactly in the middle of these two numbers. 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. They're both exactly 5 away from the midpoint, which is why 5 is our midpoint in this instance. So now that we've reviewed it, let's do some practice problems together. We're going to practice finding the midpoint. And I'm going to get my little text box out, and we're going to work on this first one. So we want to find the midpoint between 30 and 40. So looking at this, 30 is our lower end number, right? Because 30 is less than 40. So I'm going to type in 30. And then at the top here, we're going to put a 40 because 40 is the higher number. Now what we want to do is we want to find the midpoint between these numbers. What number is exactly between 30 and 40? Let's see. 40 minus 30 is 10, right? So there are 10 numbers between 30 and 40. So if 10 is the difference between them, we want to find the middle of that. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 5 is going to be the amount of digits in between our high number and our midpoint, and then our low number and our midpoint. So for our midpoint, I'm going to write 35 because 30 plus 5 is 35. Now let's test this real quick. 30 plus 5 is 35. 35 plus 5 is 40. Look, ta-da! Both of them are 5 points away from the midpoint, which is why we know that the midpoint is going to be 35. And that's how we double check it. Now let's try our next example. For our next one, we have 500 and 900. 500 is less than 900, so we're going to put it at the bottom right here. And then we're going to put 900 closer to the top arrow. Now what we want to do is we want to find the midpoint of these numbers. So 900 minus 500 is 400. And 400 is going to be the difference between those numbers. So we want to find the midpoint now. So we're going to take half of 400 and we're going to add that to 500. So half of 400 is 200. 500 plus 200 is 700, right? So I'm going to type 700 here, and then we're going to check this and see if it's right. 500 plus 200 is 700. 700 plus 200 is 900. Ta-da! Both numbers are exactly 200 away from the midpoint. This proves that 700 is our midpoint in this instance. Now let's try this last example. Yes, these are a bit bigger of numbers, but the same concept will still apply to them. So we have 10,800, and we're going to put that as our bottom value because it's less than 11,000, which is going to be the top value. And looking at this, we can see that we still want to use our commas. Oops, we got to go back a slide. So we still see our commas. Commas are placed after groups of 3, starting from counting from the right and then on. So I'm going to write 11,000 up here. And then now we got to find the midpoint between 10,800 and 11,000. Now let's find the difference first. 11,000 minus 10,800 is 200. And then we want to find half of 200, which is 100. So 10,800 plus 100 is, you're right, 10,900. And then to double check, 10,800 plus 1,000 is 10,900. 10,900 plus 1,000 is 11,000. Perfect. Both numbers are exactly 1,000 away from the midpoint, which means that we have correctly identified the midpoint. Great, so now we're going to clear all drawings and we're going to move on to the next slide. Now it's your turn. What I'd like you guys to do is I'd like you to find the midpoint of these 3 questions. Go ahead, pause the video for a few minutes. So you're going to look for the midpoint between 10 and 70, 200 and 800, and then 13,000 and 17,000. Once you're done, go ahead and unpause the video, and then we're going to go through the answers together. So go ahead and pause now. Perfect. Great job, guys. You did a wonderful job going and finding the answers yourselves and trying out the problem and seeing if you could find the midpoints between these numbers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it together real quick. So we're going to start on our first one, 10 and 70. I'm going to write 10 at the bottom arrow because 10 is less than 70, and I'm going to write 70 at the top arrow. Just like that. Now we got to find our midpoint. The midpoint between 10 and 70. Let's see, the difference between that is going to be 60, right? Because 70 minus 10 is 60. And we're going to do half of 60, which is 30. So we know that our midpoint is 30 away from the top and the bottom numbers. So 10 plus 30 is 40. So we're going to put 40 as our midpoint. We're going to double check this. 10 plus 30 is 40. 40 plus 30 is 70. Perfect. 40 is our midpoint. Now let's try the next one. We have 200 on the bottom because it's the lower number and 800 on top because it's the higher number. So now we're going to find the difference between these numbers. 800 minus 200 is 600. Half of 600 is 300. So 200 plus 300 is 500, which will be our midpoint. Now let's double check. 200 plus 300 is 500. 500 plus 300 is 800. Perfect. Both numbers are exactly 300 away from the midpoint, which proves that 500 is our midpoint. Now let's do our last problem. 13,000 is going to go on the bottom because it is our smaller number, and then we have 17,000, which is going to go at the top of our arrow. Oops. Perfect. So now midpoint. Let's find the difference between these two numbers. 17,000 minus 13,000 is 4,000. Half of 4,000 is 2,000. So we're going to add 2,000 to 13,000, which is 15,000, which should be our midpoint. Now let's double check this. 13,000 plus 2,000 is 15,000. 15,000 plus 2,000 is 17,000, which means that both of our points are exactly 2,000 away from the midpoint, which proves that this is the midpoint because it's the halfway distance between these points. So great job, guys. You did this on your own and you got some really good practice with the midpoints. So now we are going to move on to reviewing the rounding tree. Last week we talked about, not last week, a few lessons ago, we talked about this rounding tree. When we're rounding numbers, it's a cute little mnemonic that we use to help us remember. So I drew it out and then took a picture. That way you guys can see it better on the PowerPoint. So we say 0 to 4, stay on the floor. 5 to 9, climb the vine. So if our number is 0 to 4, we're going to end up rounding that number down because it's closer to the number below it than it is to the number above it. But if it's 5 to 9, we're going to round it up because it's closer to that higher number than it is to that lower number. So let's go ahead and let's apply this to some problems now. And as you guys can see, the top of this says practice rounding to any place value. Those are key words. So we want to make sure that we're carefully reading the directions. That way we round to the correct place value. So here's our first problem. Round the number 10,894 to the nearest thousands place. Okay, thousands place. So what we're going to do is we are going to be looking in this column. This is our thousands column right here. So we know that we're either going to round down to 10,000 or up to 11,000. And as you guys can see, I already wrote those numbers in our vertical line for us just to make it a little bit easier. So now we got to determine, okay, well, yeah, we know what we're going to round to one of those answers, but which one? First step is to find the midpoint. So the midpoint between 10,000 and 11,000 is going to be 10,500. Now let's double check that answer. So we have, oops, put a decimal instead of a comma. So 10,000 plus 500 is 10,500. 10,500 plus 500 is 11,000. Perfect. So both of our values are exactly 500 away from the midpoint. Now that we have correctly identified the midpoint, though, we need to determine where does the number 10,894 belong on this vertical line? Well, our question is it more or less than 10,500? It's more than, right? It's going to belong somewhere right around here where this X is. So now we need to think. Is our number where we place the X, is it closer to the top arrow or the bottom arrow? It's closer to the top arrow, right? So that means that we're going to round this number up to 11,000. So our answer for rounding 10,894 to the nearest thousands place is 11,000. And we can double check this using our chart, our tree graph that we made before. 0 to 4 stays on the floor. Well, this number here, though, is an 8. I'm going to go ahead and circle it so that way you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is an 8. That's not 0 to 4, but it is 5 to 9, which means that we're going to climb the vine, which means we are going to round up. Awesome. Let's try another example together then. So now we're going to round the same number as before, 10,894, except this time we're going to round it to the tens place. So our answer is either going to be 10,890 or it's going to be 10,900. Because we're doing it to the tens place, it's either going to stay as a 9 or it's going to go up to a 10. But 10 tens, as we learned last week, 10 tens becomes one set of hundreds, which means that it translates over to the hundreds column and it makes this 8 a 9, which is why we have it happening just like that. So what we need to do, our first step is we need to determine what the midpoint is on our vertical line. So 10,890 and 10,900. So if we find the difference, 10,900 minus 10,890, it's 10, right? And half of 10 is 5. So we're going to add 5 to our bottom number. So we're going to have 10,895. And that's going to be our midpoint because this midpoint is exactly 5 digits away from both the top number and the bottom number. Now we need to determine where this number falls on the vertical number line. 10,894 is just barely less than 10,895, right? And it's going to be placed right where that X is. So what we're going to do with this is we say it's less. Now that we know it's less, is it closer to that bottom arrow or to that top arrow? It's slightly closer to that bottom arrow, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to round this number down to 10,890, and that's going to give us our answer. So I'm going to go ahead and type it. And that is our answer. And we can double check it once again using our rhyme. 0 to 4 stays on the floor. 5 to 9 climbs the vine. In this instance, since we're rounding to the tens place, we are looking at this ones value because we want to look at the digit to the right of the place that we're rounding in. So since it's a 4, 0 to 4 stays on the floor, that means that we round the number down. So that means that we're going to pick this lower value, 10,890. Perfect job, guys. Let's move on to one more practice problem together. This time we're going to round 3,708 to the nearest hundreds place. So if we're looking at our chart here, this is our hundreds place. We have a 7. So using our vertical number line, we know that we're either going to round to, we're doing it to the thousands place, not the hundreds place. We're going to round this to either 45,000 or 46,000. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to circle thousands place instead. So let's find the midpoint between 45 and 46,000. Well, if you do the difference, they are 1,000 digits away from each other. So half of 1,000 is 500. We're going to add 500 to our lowest value, and that's going to give us a midpoint of 45,500. Just like that. Now, next step is to determine where 45,654 lies on this vertical line. So we're going to put a little stamp. Now we need to ask, is this number more or less than the midpoint? It's going to be a bit more than the midpoint, right? Because 654 is more than 500. So we're going to place a little stamp right there. Now, we need to determine, is this stamp closer to the higher arrow or the lower arrow? It's closer to the higher arrow, right? Which means that we are going to round this number up to 46,000. And then looking at our chart again, when we look at our chart, since we're rounding this to the thousandths place, we want to look to the digit to the right when we're looking at our chart. So we're looking at the 6. 0 to 4 stays on the floor. Nope, that has nothing to do with it. The 5 to 9 climbs the vine, which means that we are going to round up. And this proves that we are going to round this number to 46,000. So I'm going to go ahead and write the number 46,000. And this is our answer for our problem right here. Wonderful. So we're going to clear drawings. And you guys did a wonderful job with this. And we're going to move on to the next one now. Practice. This one is a real world word problem. So we're going to read this together and then we're going to solve it. And then you guys get to do the next one on your own. Karen went to the grocery store. She bought a box of cereal for $2.49, a tub of ice cream for $5.67, and a loaf of bread for $2.99. About how much money did she spend at the grocery store? And we're going to round this to the nearest dollar. So right here highlighted, I have our 3 different values that we're trying to round. We have $2.49, $5.67, and $2.99. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the $2.49 one first. So I'm going to get my pencil out. And we're going to use the vertical line for this one. So the lower end of $2.49 would just be $2. And the higher end would be $3, right? Our midpoint would be $2.50 because that's halfway between $2 and $3. So looking at $2.49. $2.49 is less than $2.50. So it's going to go right here on our vertical number line, which means that it's closer to the value of $2. So we're going to say that $2.49 rounds to $2. And we're just going to leave it as a simple $2. Now we're going to do $5.67. $5.67 is between $5 and $6. So we're going to write 5 down here and we're going to do 6 up here. The midpoint between that would be $5.50, right? Because it's exactly halfway between 5 and 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where $5.67 lays on our vertical number line. It's going to lay slightly above $5.50 because $5.50 is less than $5.67. So since it lies above that midpoint, we're going to be rounding this number up to $6, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take text box and we're going to say that $5.67 rounded to the nearest dollar is going to be $6. Next up, let's do $2.99. $2.99 is between $2 and $3. So we're going to have 2 and 3. Between 2 and 3 is $2.50. And when we're putting this on our vertical number line, $2.99 lies right here. It's just below $3. It's almost $3. So if we're looking at rounding, it's closer to 3 instead of 2. So we're going to say that $2.99 when rounded to the nearest dollar is $3. So now we need to figure out how much money did Karen spend at the grocery store? We have to add all of these new values that we just created, the rounded values. We're going to add them all together. So we're going to say $2 plus $6 is $8. $8 plus $3 is $11. So in total, Karen spent approximately, here we're going to text this, that way you guys can see it better. She spent approximately $11 at the grocery store that day. And that's going to give us a nice, simple, rounded number that we can work with. And as you guys saw, that was really easy to come up with. We were able to easily figure out the values and add those together instead of trying to worry about all the cents and everything and making it exactly perfect. Now, we know that she didn't spend exactly $11, but she's going to spend about $11. So now that we've done a word problem together, I'm going to have you guys practice this next one on your own. This one says, George went shopping for clothes. He bought a shirt for $12.34, a pair of pants for $22.34, and a hat for $15.99. About how much money did he spend in total? And round to the nearest dollar. So for this one, I'm going to have you guys go ahead and pause the video, take some time, do this on your own, and when you're ready to work through the answer, go ahead and unpause. So go ahead and pause now. Great. So now that you guys took a second, you worked on this on your own, we're going to go through the answer together. We are going to round $12.34. $12.34 is going to be somewhere between $12 and $13, right? So if we were to write $12 right here, 12 would be at the bottom of our line, 13 would be at the top of our line. In the middle of our line, we'd have $12.50, which would be right here. Now we need to ask, is our value less than or more than the midpoint? Is $12.34 less than $12.50? Yes, it is, which means that we are going to round this number down to just simply $12. Oh, I'm sorry, I turned the page. So we're going to round that number. There we go. We're going to round the number down to $12.34. $12.34 will be rounded down to simply $12. Next up, we're going to do $22.34. $22.34, we would put 22 down here, 23 up here. Half of that would be $22.50. From there, we're going to have, looking at our midpoint, is $22.34 more or less than $22.50? It's less than. So we're going to round this number down again, and we're going to round it down to just simply $22. So we're going to type in dollars, 22. Next up, we have $15.99. For this one, we would put $15 at the bottom and $16 at the top. Half of that would be $15.50. And what we would do from here is we got to determine, is $15.99 more or less than that? $15.99 is more than $15.50. It's almost 16, so we're going to totally round that number up all the way to $16. So we're going to type in $16. Great, now we need to add up all these values. That way we can determine how much money George spent that day. So we're going to put $12 plus $22 plus $16. When you add all these up, we have 12 plus 22 is 34, and then 34 plus 16 would be 50. So George spent $50 on clothes that day, and $50 is going to be our answer for how much money he spent to a rounded number. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that for you guys. So $50 is what you should have gotten for your problem when working through this. So now we're going to move on to our next slide. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide now. Now we're going to practice estimate with addition. So we're going to estimate this addition problem to the nearest thousands place. So if we're looking at this, we have 15,654 plus 13,121. So first we're going to work with the number 15,654. We're going to try to figure out what to do with this before we do anything else. So since we're rounding it to the nearest hundreds place, which is the 6 here, we're going to round this number to either 15,600 or 15,700. So let's go ahead and we're going to use our vertical number line to help us to determine which one to do. So we're going to write 15,600, and then we're going to write 15,700. The midpoint of these two numbers are going to be, looking at this, 15,600 and 15,700, the midpoint will be 15,650, just like so. So 15,654 is more than our midpoint. So we're going to put a little X above it. If it's more than our midpoint, it means that we're going to be rounding this number up. So we're going to say that this number is approximately 15,700. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle it right here. That way we can see it when we're looking at it. Just like that. Next up, we're going to do 13,121. When you round it, it's going to be either 13,100 or it's going to be 13,200. So we're going to use our vertical number line to help us again. 13,100 and 13,200. Our midpoint between this would be 13,150 because it's 50 away from both of these numbers. So if we look at 13,121, we know that it's less than 13,150, and it's going to be right about there on the number line. So since it's below our midpoint, we're going to round this number down to 13,100. So I'm going to circle this number. Now, next step that we need to do is we need to add these two values together to get the estimated value. So we're going to have, I'm going to type it out, that way it's easy for you guys to see. 15,700 plus 13,100. Now we want to answer this question here. 15,700 plus 13,100 is going to give us our answer of 18,800. So 18,800. That is going to be our estimated value of these two numbers. And this is going to be our complete answer right here. Ta-da! Great. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to clear the slide. That way we can continue working now. And this time, I'd like you guys to do this one on your own. You're going to estimate this number to the nearest thousands place instead of the hundreds place. Last time we did the hundreds place, now we're going to do it to the thousands place. So you guys are going to be working on this place value. Oops, went too far slides. You're going to be working on this place value right here. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and you're going to pause the video, take some time, do this on your own, and then when you're done, come back and we're going to go over the answers together. Great. So now that you guys have taken some time and done this on your own, let's go over the answers. 15,654. We're going to round this to the nearest thousands place. If you're looking at the thousands, we know that we're going to have a value of either 15,000 or a value of 16,000. So that's what I'm going to put in my two placeholders on my vertical number line. Now we need to find the midpoint. The midpoint between these numbers is 15,500 because it's exactly 500 away from both the high number and the low number. So now we need to use our stamp tool. 15,654 is located somewhere around here where I put the X because it's more than 15,500. Since it's more than our midpoint, it means that we're going to round the number up to the higher value. So we are going to round this number to 16,000. So I'm going to put a little X there so that we remember. Let's work on the 13,000 number now. So now what we're going to do is we are going to determine 13,121. We're going to round this to either 13,000 or to 14,000, depending on what we determine from the midpoint. The midpoint of this number is going to be 13,500 because it's exactly 500 away from the low number and the high number, which means that's the halfway point. So now let's determine where this number belongs on the line. Is 13,121 more or less than 13,500? It's less, like a lot less, right? So it's going to go somewhere down here. So since it's less than the midpoint and it's closer to the bottom number, it means that we're going to round 13,121 to be about 13,000. So now let's write out our brand new addition problem that we're going to be solving. We have 16,000 plus 15,000 plus 13,000. And then we're going to say equals, and then we're not sure. That's what we need to determine now. 16,000 plus 13,000 is going to be 29,000, right? So 29,000 is going to be our rounded value, our estimated value of solving this problem to the nearest thousands place. Perfect. So you guys did a great job with that. This is a new concept, so it will take a few practice tries to get a hold of. But you guys have been doing really good with this, and just watching the video and doing some more practice equations will definitely help to make it make more sense to you. So here's an overview of what we did today. Our objective, and you guys can go ahead and say this with me. I can round multi-digit numbers to any place value using a vertical number line. So we talked about that. You just need to pay attention to the directions to make sure you're rounding to the correct place value and that you're using the correct rules with it. We also talked about our rhyme, 0 to 4, stay on the floor, 5 to 9, climb the vine. That helps you to remember whether you should round up or down. And the midpoint. The midpoint is located right here on our vertical number line. I'm going to put a little X. Actually, I'm going to spotlight it so you guys can see. It's located right here on our number line. If the number takes place above that midpoint, you're also going to round it up. If it's below that midpoint, you're going to round it down. So those are just some rules on what we've done today, an overview of what we learned, and some different ideas and things that we can work on when rounding multi-digit numbers to any place value with the usage of a vertical number line. So great job, everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful day today.